What's going on, everyone? And welcome to Ron 2's Motivation and Conversation, where I'm your host, Ron Lyles. And it's my job to make you think and motivate you to keep going, growing, and flowing into a life of a better and more improved you. Yeah, wherever you're watching me from in the world today, I say to you, hello. Yeah. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about something good. I'm going to be encouraging you all out there to own it. Own it. All right. Listen, if you like or love any of the content that we're putting out, always remember this. Please, ma'am, sir, hit that subscribe and like button and hit the notification bell so you can be notified anytime we post any brand new content. All right. Once again, thank you for watching. Now, before we dive into it, if you aren't following me on any of my social pages, please, ma'am, sir, my handles are down below, my social media handles. You can go down and you can follow me. Become a part of my social media family, all right? I would love to have you. Now, let's dive into this. Own it, all right? I like looking at definitions, and so that's exactly what we're going to do. If you've been following me throughout my episodes, you know we're going to pull up the definition, and then we're going to talk about it, all right? Now, let's look at the definition. What does it mean to own something? To own. Let's look. To own. It means to acknowledge as one's own. Recognize as having full claim, authority, power, and dominion. Once again, to acknowledge as one's own, to recognize as having full claim, authority, power, and dominion. So everybody that's out there watching me, you must know this, that in order for you to be successful in your purpose, in your gift, and in your calling, you must own it. You have to own it. That's the only way that you will see success. That's the only way you will see growth. That's the only way you will see any type of improvement, progress towards anything positive in your life. You must first own it. You have to own it. And I'm coming to find that the reason why many people are stagnant, why they feel stuck, why they find themselves quote unquote behind, why they feel like they're not progressing, not moving, it's not because of money all the time. It's not because of a lack of resources all the time. It's not because of a lack of help. But sometimes I'm coming to find that all of this stuff is happening simply because you don't own it. Yeah, you don't own it. You're not walking in the authority. You're not walking in the power and the dominion of that thing. Ownership equals possession. I'm going to say it again. Ownership equals possession. In order for you to possess, you have to own it. You can't possess without ownership, legally. Ownership equals possession. So you must own it. You've got to walk in ownership in order for you to possess it. All right. Now watch this. Let's look at this. Ownership starts with acknowledgement. Ownership starts with acknowledgement. So this simply means that acknowledgement, watch this, it means to admit to be real or true. I'm going to repeat that. Acknowledgement means to admit to be real or true, to recognize the existence of a thing. And I've come to find out that some of you are really running from your purpose. Some of you are running from that gift. Some of you are running from that calling. So you can't own it until you acknowledge it. You ever heard the term or heard people say that when they walked into the room, they began to shrink in the room? Because the room that they walked into, it had all these people in it with higher credentials or seemingly better credentials. Seems like they may have done more. They may have gone further. They may have deeper connections, better influence, better reach. And you walk in and you feel like because you're not on that level or on that social status or on that social level, you shrink in the room. Stop doing it. Stop shrinking in the room. When you own who you are, when you embrace who you are, watch this. And when you walk into it, when you've owned it and you've possessed it, It doesn't matter what room you walk into. You can walk into the room with people with credentials from Texas to California. Literally, you can walk in the room with people with credentials from New York all the way to Hawaii. But guess what? It doesn't matter. Why? Because I own who I am. I acknowledge who I am. I admit to be real and true in the ownership in who I am, in the ownership of my purpose, in the ownership of my gifting, in the ownership of my calling. I own it. I possess it. So guess what? I don't shrink. I don't care what you've done. I don't care who you know. I don't care what your influence is. You can have 1 million followers on social media, whatever handle. But guess what? Because I know who I am, because I own who I am, because I walk in the ownership, because I walk in it, I can possess it. Guess what? And because I possess it, I'm not intimidated. See, you won't be intimidated when you own it. You won't be intimidated when you acknowledge it. And you definitely won't be intimidated when you possess it. All right? So let's stop shrinking in the room out there. Another thing here. Watch this. We said this just now, and I'm going to keep harping on this. Ownership equals possession. Ownership equals possession. Watch this. You can't legally possess something until you own it. Watch this. Once you come to own it, you'll possess the things that come with that ownership. You can walk in full claim. You can walk in full authority. You can walk in full power. You can walk in dominion. Notice this. A homeowner never asks their neighbor for their set of keys to open their house. A vehicle owner never asks for anybody's permission to enter their car. Why is that? Because they own it. I've never met a homeowner walk up to their front door and say, hold on, wait a minute. Let me go knock on my next door neighbor's door and ask them if I can get into my house. I've never met a vehicle owner at a grocery store walk up to their car and say, wait a minute, let me go back in and ask the clerk if I can enter my car. Why? Because they own it, because you own it. And when you recognize that you own something, guess what? You have the keys that unlock the door. You have the keys that unlock the door. A lot of you have the key that unlocks the door to your happiness, to your freedom, to your joy, to your peace, to your love. But you have to own your purpose. You have to own your gift. You have to own your calling. Some of you out there, you're floating in the wind because you don't own who you are. Some of you are afraid of success. Some of you are afraid to own it because of the fear of the unknown. But you got to drop it and own it. The moment that you own it, you can possess it. Speak it, believe it, receive it. You can't do any of that stuff if you don't own it, if you don't acknowledge and say, this is real and this is true. I acknowledge it. I accept it. This is real. So you have to own it. You have to possess it. You don't have to ask for nobody's permission. Listen, a lot of you business owners out there, a lot of you people that want to own businesses and you want to go back to school and get degrees. You want to do things in the arts field, in the creative field. Some of you are musicians and singers. Some of you are dancers, whatever. Some of you, a lot of you are just gifted and talented people. Whatever it is that you want to do out in the workforce. Watch this. You have to walk in ownership. You have to walk in the ownership of that thing. And when you own it, guess what? Ownership equals possession. You won't have to ask nobody. You won't have to get anybody's permission. Watch this. My favorite scene in the movie A Family That Prays, Tyler Perry's movie, Family That Prays. My favorite scene is the boardroom scene. At the end of the movie, that is. The reason why that scene is my favorite scene is because Kathy Bates, who plays the owner of the company, her son tries to vote her out of her position as owner. He wants to take over. So he's convinced those that have influence in the boardroom to basically side with him and vote his mother out of her ownership position. Yeah. And so one day, Kathy Bates, who plays his mother, she gets wind of this. She calls a meeting towards the end of this movie, calls a board meeting. Already the son is perturbed. He's upset because a meeting was called without his permission. So he walks in with an attitude, sits down in a chair. The mother is cool, calm, and collected the whole time because she has an ace in her back pocket. She knows something that her son doesn't know. So the son comes in, cocky, brash, comes in, sits down in a chair, and just begins just to berate his mother. And his mother sits there and she tells all the people that basically unanimously voted for her son to take over. She says, why don't you all unanimously scoop down to the end of the table? And he's looking around as if to say, what's going on? Well, what's going on is they didn't realize that there was another company that also was a majority shareholder within the company that didn't get a chance to vote on this. And so the colleague tells the son, he says, well, the son says, is this real? And he says, but this company hasn't voted for years. They haven't voted on anything. And she says, well, they're going to start today. So when they look, in walks her best friend. And in walks a homeless man who used to work for the company that her son fired because he was jealous of him. Watch this. In the midst of this, the son now is looking. The colleagues are looking. They're all nervous, wondering what is getting ready to happen. And she says, well, the voting members, cast your vote. And he says, wait a minute. They're not voting members. It was her best friend and, a homeless man. Well, she said, but wait a minute. She called out the company's name and her best friend raised her hand. She said, that's my name. And Nick, he raised his hand. Blanchard, he said, that's my name. They said, wait a minute, aren't you the one that we fired? And yeah, it was him. But here comes the part. Watch this. They voted to keep the mother on board. But then she turned around and fired her son. What are you saying? I'm saying this. At the end of the day, if you're going to own anything, you've got to fire those things in your life that's literally tried to put you out of the ownership seat of owning what you possess. So literally, if you have fear, if you had confusion, lack of drive, procrastination, if you had envy in you, if you lost your focus, whatever the case may be, you've got to fire those things from your life that wants to put you out of your position of ownership. You've got to get rid of them. You have to get rid of them. Some of you need to repossess your ownership. Ooh, yes, sir. Some of you out there listening, you need to repossess your ownership. Take it back. Take back your ownership. We know what repossess means. If you're a bank and you're a homeowner and you have a mortgage, you stop making payments and see what the bank will do. It's called foreclosure. They come back in, they take back the house. They take full legal claim and ownership of the house. They take dominion of the house. You stop making payments on your car. Guess what? They come back. They repossess the car. They take full claim, ownership, and dominion of your car. Why? Because you couldn't maintain the payments. You couldn't maintain the payments. And a lot of you dropped your gift off. You dropped your purpose off. You dropped your calling off in places that couldn't maintain it. Fear can't maintain your gift. Confusion can't maintain your gift. Envy can't maintain your gift. Lack of focus, low self-esteem, any type of emotion that drew from you, you dropped your gift off there, but guess what? They can't maintain it. So you need to repossess your gift. Take it back. Take it back. Repossess your calling. Take it back. Repossess that thing so you can walk in the full ownership and authority of it. Repossess it and take it all back. You can't call an insurance company and place a claim if your name's not on the policy. You can't. Why? Because you're not the authorized owner. Some of you need to put your name back on that claim and claim it. Take authority of it. Own it. Ownership. Own that business. Get that degree. Whatever you're trying to do, you need to walk into the ownership of that thing. And when you do, you'll find yourself possessing it. And when you possess it, you'll walk in the full nature and in the fullest extent of that gift, of your purpose, and of your calling. Listen, I love you. Thank you all for tuning in today. This has been another broadcast of Ron Two's Motivation and Conversation. And always remember this, you must own it. All right? I'll see you on the next episode. Okay? See you soon.